everyone, and welcome to another episode of Living on Blockchain. Today, we are speaking to Jerry Lee. Jerry Lee is a seasoned tech executive with extensive experience in product innovation and general management. He has worked with, Apple as well as the Ant Group. That's the Alibaba Group. He's worked extensively with Alipay, and he was also the chief architect at Ant Chain, a part of the Ant Group, where he gained significant insights into the blockchain architecture and scalability. Now he's working on his own blockchain. It's called Artela Network. It basically is a modular chain. It addresses the limitations of current blockchain technologies, particularly, Ethereum. They are calling themselves EVM++. And I will let you discover what he means by that and what is the plus plus in Artela Network and how you can be a part of this modular chain that is coming up, and it's already in its public testnet by listening in on this conversation. I can't wait for you guys to hear this. Let's deep dive right in. Hi, Jerry. Thank you so much for making the time to speak to us today. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me, Tarusha.
The pleasure is all mine. Now, for our listeners, can you tell us a little about, your background and what led you into the blockchain industry?
Yeah. First, a little bit about myself. I'm Jerry, and I'm a veteran in the technology industry. I started my career in Silicon Valley about 20 years ago. The majority of my career, I was with Apple. Then a few years ago, I joined Ant Financial at the time. Now it's changed name to Ant Group. I think it was 2017, and that's when I got into the blockchain space. I was the general manager and the chief architect of Ant Chain. That's the blockchain division of Ant Group.
Right.
So we spent a few years building a technology for blockchain and real world applications, just with the consortium chain with the Ant Financial. Mostly these are just enterprise business facing applications like
Right.
supply chain finance, trade finance, commodity trading platform, etc. And I saw a lot of potential for blockchain technology to have real impact in future finance. So that, and later on, I decided to branch out of Ant and take our learnings and experience to a bigger world. That's how Artela came to be. Artela was founded about a year and a half ago, and we are in public testnet phase.
Wow, brilliant. So can you tell me a little about how your experience perhaps at Apple and the Ant Group influence your approach to just the technology in general? Like, were there certain learnings that you're bringing to the table for Artela as well?
Sure. I think for both Apple and the group, these are like huge companies.
Right.
They have very popular products serving really billion people, not just millions of users, right? Started with Apple. I think when I joined, it was 2005, early days. That was pre-iPhone. Yeah, I started when Steve Jobs was around, and he was very much involved in some of the product decision makings. I remember there's one time I was working on the first generation of MacBook Air. There's this famous scene where he was on stage calling out this very thin product, first generation MacBook Air, out of that yellow envelope. I was right there with him on the backstage. So he was very much involved in that product. Like one thing he really pushed the team was to make sure the weight of the product could not be more than 3 pounds. So at the time, 2007, 2008, was really a big challenge, and we were able to pull it off. So that was Mac, and then later on, I switched to iPhone and worked on iPhone for a few generations, from iPhone 4 all the way to iPhone 10. That was the period where the mobile internet had a huge growth all over the world, right?
Right.
And then later on, I joined Ant Financial. Ant Financial had this product. I'm not sure about your audience if they're familiar with Alipay, because that's
Right.
like
Yeah.
the go.
Everybody's heard about Alipay. Yeah.
Okay, okay, all right, yeah. So it's like we call the citizens app in China.
Right.
Pretty much everyone has it,
Yeah.
and it
It's
started with the
it's pretty
mobile.
much like a
Yeah.
Paytm for China. Like what India has Paytm, and I think Alipay perhaps
Uh-huh.
is like
Yeah.
a, if you just compare and draw an analogy so that people would understand better, I think Alipay
Hmm.
is pretty much akin to what Paytm is to India. So I think just giving that
Yeah.
example so that a lot of people, more people would be able to understand. Please go on.
Right, probably. Yeah, Alipay started just as a payment platform.
Right.
Then it evolved to be, so much more. It's like a super app, right? It does so many things for you. But it really does the mobile payment that function really, really well in terms of the speed, the convenience, and it enables new forms of innovations, like new kind of location-based services and other form of internet services that were not possible before, right? So that's kind of the parallel I see between the mobile payments and the future with the blockchain, because we are building a new blockchain. Artela is about building this high performance in a modular blockchain for Web3 mass adoption.
Hmm.
But really, the blockchain is so early. People are still wondering, oh, how is it going to be useful? How does it help people? How does it going to help my life, right? If you look at the on-chain numbers, there are different statistics, right? But still, even today, the active users is still a very small number. I would say it's much less than 1% of the world population. Um, it does not really compare to Web 2, right?
Right. Yeah,
In
absolutely.
Web 2,
The
yeah,
penetration is
yeah,
very little when it comes to Web3. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So that's where I see things that we are so early. You see the potential of having a permissionless, just a whole suite of new financial applications and other applications built on top of this blockchain, on top of the financial layer. Could be social, could be gaming. There could be just the
There can be plethora
internet.
of examples and
Yeah,
use cases, right? That can be built on top of it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's just like there are so many things people are talking about today, but just due to the foundation on the infrastructure level, is still lacking. It's still slow and not very secure. The UI UX is confusing. There's like so many hurdles for
Right.
people to really adopt and use in their life.
Yeah.
But I think we're getting there. I like the name of your show, Living on Blockchain.
Right.
In a way, yeah, in a way, that's how I have been doing it for the last couple of years. We got to practice what we preach, right? Um, but we realize things are early. It's just not very friendly for the general population to use to really live their life on blockchain yet.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree with you. So, with all of this major learning that, you had with your experience in Web2 and with such huge companies like Apple and obviously, now, you're building something very special and you're building the Artela Network. Can you tell us a little about that? And if you had to perhaps surmise it in one line and you had to explain it to
Mm-hmm.
somebody who perhaps is not a
Mm-hmm.
blockchain native, how would you go about doing it?
Yeah, if I explain to someone who does not really understand blockchain or that,
Hmm.
it would be we are building permissionless infrastructure for future finance. Um, and in a more technical term, we call ourselves EVM plus plus
Hmm.
blockchain. What that means is actually three things. First, we are EVM compatible
Right.
because, yeah, most of the smart contract is written in Solidity. That's just the industry standard. I
Right.
want, we did not want to create another silo. We wanted to be compatible with that. So that's just the starting point, EVM compatible. Then we add two plus signs there. The first plus means scalability. we want this blockchain to be really scalable. This pretty much means just making it faster and cheaper. For example, when Bitcoin started, the TPS transaction per second, it was still today, right? 7, 8.
Yeah.
It's really low, and Ethereum is somewhere like 15, 16. Then you have the L2s or other new ones. Just everyone wants to scale their blockchain just faster to achieve to like higher TPS.
Right.
That's just
Everybody wants to
one
do
metric,
that.
right?
Anybody building a chain is just
Yeah,
looking
yeah.
at, increasing, basically getting the TPS right. Yeah.
Right. It's definitely needed, but it's not the whole story. So, but we definitely want to do that. One number I remember was at Alipay. We did during some of the peak traffic. Alipay was able to support like more than 500,000 transactions per second. So for Web3 to get to for today's blockchain to get to that level would still take years of research and implementation.
Right.
But now we're looking at maybe not 15. We will want to achieve to like 10,000, that range. I think it's definitely doable. Scale the chain's performance, right? But what's unique about Artela is the second plus. We call it EVM plus plus, right? The second plus is about extensibility.
Okay.
Because we think scalability is just one dimensional. It's about performance, faster and cheaper. But extensibility is what makes the chain versatile to be able to support new just functions, new types of applications. So the definition of extensibility is that you don't need to change the system itself. You can just keep adding new functions. Like it's really a modular approach. One good example is we talked about iPhone, right? iPhone is a good example. The phone itself does not change, but you can have different apps. So when you install a new app, that extends the function of your phone in a like whole dimension, right?
Yeah.
Another
So
good
like
example
when we
is
started when we start the phone was started, there were not so many apps, right, initially. And so now obviously there are thousands of apps that are available, and that is exactly what you mean when you're saying that it extends the functionality and the utility that the phone holds in the user's lives, right? So that is the kind of analogy that you're giving for your chain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A similar analogy would be for Alipay. You can do payment so well, but now you can add new functions. You can add like trading functions. You can add other financial services. Then later on becomes like this app you use for so many other things to serve your life, right?
The idea is to basically adding more
what
functionality and making it more useful, perhaps in your day-to-day life.
Exactly.
And
Because
in
that's
your
what we
chain.
see where
No, please go ahead.
Yeah, that's what we see where the future goes, is that the chain has to be really solid on a fundamental level, to support the quick settlement, fast transaction, all that. But at the same time, it needs to be adaptive, needs to be flexible, and needs to be extensible to build new applications on top of it.
Right. Yeah, I think I totally see why you feel that this is the right way to perhaps look at the kind of penetration in terms of users Web3's had and how to increase it, right? If you're going to be able to create utility applications and applications that kind of become a part of day-to-day use for users or potential users, then that is the point. I think that'll be the inflection point where there are so many more users in Web3, and perhaps utilizing the technology without even realizing that it is Web3.
Yeah, exactly. Eventually, blockchain will become like TCP/IP underlying the internet protocol. If people just use their service on top of it, just don't even notice what's underlying.
Absolutely. That is going to be the way, like that is going to be the future. And definitely I think that will be very ideal, that people don't really, right now so many people are online and they're using the internet, but not everybody understands how the internet work, as the example that you gave, right? But we are still online, and I feel
Yeah.
that that is exactly how it should be for Web3 as well, that a lot of these apps will be built on Web3, but unless you are a techie or somebody who's actually interested in the technical aspect, you wouldn't really be aware that, okay, this is being built on Web3, but you'll be utilizing it anywhere.
Yeah, yeah. But unfortunately, that's not the case today, right? Today,
Yeah.
if you want to use some Web3 crypto native applications, the presence of blockchain is very much there, right? You connect the wallet, you do something there, and you sign your signature, you wait. You
Yeah.
just kind of feel the blockchain is kind of like crunching somewhere behind, but it's such a slow and just an ineffective experience. Yeah, that's gonna take many years to improve. Eventually,
Yeah.
get to the Web 2 level. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's not just slow, it's just tedious, right? Like onboarding users with so many steps. So before anybody can really onboard a user onto their own platform, you're expecting the user to have a wallet and to perhaps use logging in via MetaMask or something, unless your app is at the stage where you're perhaps using social logins. But then all of this comes with, I think there is a lot of baggage when it comes to building in Web3, and especially just onboarding users. Obviously, now with wallet abstraction, being there, it has become better. And there are a lot of more builders who are working on the user interface aspect, I think, which is very, very pertinent if we want to really onboard the next, million users onto Web3.
Right. Exactly. I think there's a lot Web3 industry can learn from Web 2 in terms of building a product that's not just for the idealist. I mean, not just being wholly decentralized, permissionless. I mean, these are good features, right? These are the killer features that Web3 offers. But at the same time, we cannot forget the everyday users, right? Some of them they may not care as much as the idealist, and the hurdle is just too high for everyday people right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I concur. So, you have mentioned how Artela has this modular functionality, right? These programmable
Right.
modules. Can you give us perhaps a few uh, practical applications or use cases that you've seen being built currently?
Sure, absolutely. One type of applications on web blockchain is DeFi, decentralized finance, right? A lot of people are using it,
Right.
and the more people want to use it, but people are just kind of afraid about, we talk about the tediousness of the UI UX. Another thing is the security, right? Yeah, it keeps happening, right? Someone just loses their asset or they get hacked. How can we bring more security control, that risk control from Web 2 into Web 3? That's one very useful type of applications. In fact, people already built with Artela. One good example is we have a DeFi application. It could be lending, trading, just your typical Web3 applications that's running within EVM. Artela blockchain, we have the second VM that's a Walsum based WebAssembly. That's just more flexible and more Web2 developer friendly. We can build a security control engine that within the Walsum that works side by side with the EVM, the DeFi application. So that provides another layer of security, and like for things like rug pull or a reentrancy attack, we can have different security modules that work with the DeFi, to provide much better security. That's already been built. I think more applications like that will happen.
So can you tell us a little about how can developers get involved with Artela? If, I'm sure that they're
Mhm,
intrigued by now listening to all that,
mhm.
we've spoken about and the functionality that this particular chain brings to the table. How can developers get involved?
Right. Yeah. Our website, Artela.network, has a lot of documentations,
Hmm,
and also we are in public testnet phase.
right.
Artela testnet is alive. There's a developer portal on our website you can get into and start building. There are different use cases and tools, examples there already.
Right.
So for anyone interested, you can just come to our website and come to the developer portal, start building.
Brilliant. So it's pretty straightforward. You guys are in public testnet already. So
Mhm.
developers who are perhaps building, and they're intrigued by modular functionality, they should definitely sign up. And I would encourage you to perhaps try it because this is sounding all very exciting. Now, Jerry, talking a little about uh, the future, right? What is your
Mhm.
vision for Artela Network, perhaps for the next 5 years or the next decade? How are you visualizing what is
Mhm.
like there for the future for this particular network, considering we are already in that multi-chain verse where there are so many
Yeah.
chains that are there, and there are so many that are also coming up. Every
Mhm.
few months there we hear about new chain that is being built. How do you
Right.
what is the kind of future that you're envisioning for Artela?
Yeah. I see the future as a multi-chain world.
Hmm.
Of course, there's a competition in different protocols. New chains keep coming, because right now, it's so early. Infrastructure is not there. Competition is a good thing. I see the future as being multi-chain, and eventually will be compatible, composable, interconnected as a global settlement network. Uh, I of course, from my standpoint, I want Artela to be a very significant part of it. But I see will be multiple chains there, but they are compatible, like different internet protocols, but they talk to each other, right? But they form this global settlement network layer where you can use your service on top of it. Right on top of it is financial, like the payment, the trading, all that. But above that, you have other applications, right?
Right.
It just supports and enables new forms of innovations, permissionless, and to put user in control of their data and in control, owning their identity. All these good things we've been talking about for Web3, I think eventually will become reality. And we definitely want to drive that so that we on board really billion plus users. That's how I see it gonna come out.
Right. I think that's a wonderful vision to hold and work on while your team gets in to and gets ready for the mainnet launch as well. So do you have like a particular timeline for until the mainnet launch?
Yes, yes. We started testnet earlier this year. We plan to launch the mainnet in Q3, probably around the time frame.
Right.
In fact, just this week, Monday, we launched our user incentive campaign. We call it Renaissance, and we already see very big inflow, big traffic jump, a lot of new users coming to our testnet, different applications. Again, Artela.network, it's there. You can come through and try different applications and doing some community tasks as well and have some fun for Artela's incentive testnet.
Right. Wonderful. So now I would really like to perhaps touch upon your take on the space in general, because we've touched upon the product, we've touched upon what
Mm-hmm,
you guys are building. I would love to know from your
mm-hmm,
experience, and like you mentioned, and I agree that there are a lot of good things and very basic things I think that remain common across Web 2 and Web 3, right? While building a business,
mm-hmm,
and especially a consumer facing business at that. Can you tell me what are the kind of trends that you feel are very, very promising at the moment when we've recently seen the Ethereum ETF get approval as well, right? So what do you think is
Yeah.
what are the kind of niches that are going to do well in this particular phase of Web3?
hmm Yeah, I think in general, Web3 or blockchain technology is still in early phase. One comparison I would like to use is to compare again with AI. AI is such a buzzword, right? Everyone's talking about
Yeah,
AI. The ChatGPT has
everybody.
a new product. Yeah, yeah. Even a lot of some of the crypto people actually became an AI project now, right?
Yeah, there are AI tokens.
So
Yeah.
yeah, but just look at what happened to AI. AI just went through multiple cycles. I think famously there were three AI winters in
Hmm.
the past 50 years, right? These things would just take a lot of the time, the development, and eventually become mature enough and ready for prime time. Um, and even within AI, 10 years ago, if you ask people around in Silicon Valley at the time, 2014, 2015, when people talk about AI, it was mostly a lot of them are doing autonomous driving.
Hmm.
Right? For example,
Yeah.
that was the AI then. Yeah. Now it's all large language model. The new applications, the AI agent in your phone. Yeah, it's just different, still pretty much the same in terms of the neural network, or the machine learning, that type of thing,
Hmm.
right? Um, so for Web3, I probably it will be a parallel path before it reaches the tipping point of mass adoption. And that's the exciting part. I mean, they're unknowns, right? You kind of know, well, you see the potential where this permissionless internet is going to be really powerful for people for different applications. But right now, we don't know what's going to turn out to be the big thing, right? Um,
Right.
so yeah, I think this stage is for the most part is still building on the infrastructure layer, just to make
Right.
it better, and yeah, just to be able to make it possible to support larger scale applications. Then maybe next cycle we'll see more innovations in applications, and then maybe the next one something eventually will break out.
So you were betting on in the infra layer to do really big. And I tend to I agree. I think, we need to really get the infra aspect right and work on the UI aspect to
Mm-hmm.
onboard like the next million users, like I keep saying, onto
Mm-hmm.
Web3.
Yeah, yeah.
So now I would really like to understand from your perspective on like we've talked about the newer things and the shinier things that are being built. Are there do you have like any personal favorites, perhaps any projects that you are rooting for personally that you feel are doing a wonderful job?
Yeah, I think we mentioned brings more security to DeFi. I think that would be something short term, something that can be implemented, onboard a lot of users and bring a lot of value to Web3. So safe and secure DeFi is one area I see a lot of potential. And payment is still something that's not quite there yet, but it's
Right.
almost there. Yeah, safe and fast and secure payments, just anywhere you go. Maybe not quite there yet, but yeah, give it a couple of years. You can transact with anyone in the world with any currency you choose, right? It could be crypto, it could be stable coin, could be any other form of a token. Right? That would be a very powerful scenario.
Right.
And a little longer term, I'm really bullish on social.
Right.
It just, yeah, maybe forecaster today it gives you some early hint of what's coming. But I think there are so many issues with these centralized social platforms. It could be Twitter, it could be TikTok, just all Facebook, all these centralized social platforms have their share of security data, and user privacy, and
Hmm.
how do you moderate the content? There are just so many issues, like maybe even too big of a responsibility for these platforms to continue to own all the data and be responsible for for some of the content there, right? So definitely I see decentralized social applications as something that's going to revolutionize and bring more usefulness and benefit, but that's going to take longer time just because
Right.
infrastructure is not quite ready. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna get there. But the kind of niches that you mentioned, I think I'm pretty bullish on those as well, like in terms of social, especially. And I do think that there's gonna be, right now the convergence between AI and Web3, I think it's obviously very early days. But
Hmm.
in the future, we're going to, we would need a Web3, or AI would actually
Hmm.
need Web3 to, keep in check the kind of veracity of the content that is being produced. I think that is the future, right? Right
Hmm.
now, a lot of
Yeah.
there are always,
Hmm.
some bad fish in the pond, and they'll be looking at perhaps creating disinformation and spreading disinformation using
Hmm.
AI, and we would be able to rein it in only with the use of Web3.
Yeah, yeah. I think blockchain helps it, keep it real. Check the information when you see where the source is, all that. But on the intersection of AI and crypto, I see one specific area that is creator economy. Because what AI does the best is to generate all these new form of digital goods or services or things with value, but in a very efficient and easy way. So AI creates digital abundance. But what crypto does, blockchain does really well is to create digital scarcity, right?
Right. That's a
Yeah,
beautiful way of putting it.
I think it's definitely possible, and something be, with in intersection of crypto and AI is going to create new form of applications and new form of business models.
Yeah, I think this it's
Yeah.
still evolving, right? So I do feel that
Yeah.
there is a lot of potential there, and we have to wait and watch and see where the path entirely goes. I'm really curious about the community aspect, for
Mm,
Artela Network, because for any kind of any chain to take off, like there is a cold start problem there, right? You need developers, you need users to be using those apps.
right.
But initially, you need to, it's like the chicken and egg problem. You need to kind of resolve that. And people
Mhm.
who are perhaps working on such solutions usually rely very heavily on the community. What are your thoughts there, and how are you guys doing it for Artela?
Right, absolutely. This is actually one of the key learnings that I had transitioning from Web 2 to Web 3. Because Web 2 days, the focus was always on product and later on users, right? The product users. But Web 3 is narrative and community. uh, uh, but I think narrative will eventually become product, and the community will become the users or become the base of users, right? So in a way, it's actually the same thing. We started the building Artela community like since about a year ago. We were able to grow that to about a couple 100,000 community members in socials, and if you take a look into do analysis, break it down. Our tele community is mostly, I would say, like 70% Asia, and 30% the rest of the world. And in Asia is like East Asia, Southeast Asia, and India is also among one of the top 10 countries. So I do see the future that Asia will be the biggest growth engine for Web3, just because of the population, the demographics, and it's just the more interest for adoption for Web3. So we've been doing a lot, and we are. I mentioned our Renaissance campaign. It started 3-4 days ago. I'm happy to report we're getting close to 100,000 users
Wow.
already. Yeah, within first we probably will cross that by the end of the day. So yeah, definitely community is important in Web3, and I do see that that's going to be the base for our user base going forward.
Right. So can you tell us a little about the secret sauce perhaps that you guys are deploying in order to build on this community? Are there incentives involved? How are you doing
Mhm.
it?
Yeah, it's a multi-faceted effort. Of course, incentive alignment is important, particularly in our industry, right? Web3, there's a lot of price movement. Just things is happening so fast. So we do have incentive testnet campaign, for example, to get user rewards. When we do our mainnet launch, we do want to make sure our early contributors and early adopters will share the benefit of the growth of the Artela technology, Artela the network, right? There's that, and another thing is partnership. We are building some very meaningful and important partnerships with some of the other projects in terms of product integration and community growth, co-growth together, some of the marketing effort together as well. So because really Web3 is about the ecosystem, it's not just about one product, right? Particularly for us being a layer one, we need a lot of partners to build with us to also grow the ecosystem together. So we're doing a lot of that in terms of partnership as well.
Right. Yeah, I think meaningful partnerships and collaboration is key here, when it comes to Web3 to move forward. We don't have to do it alone. I think that is one of the more beautiful things about Web3. Collaboration and partnership is key, and we kind of go together as an ecosystem. So if you had to personally perhaps talk a little about some influencers or thought leaders, or even just point our listeners to in the direction of certain resources, what would those be?
There's resources for Artela.
For Artela, I think you've already mentioned that you have a very
Yeah.
nice community on the website. I meant for Web3 in general, because you are somebody who's moved from Web2 to Web3. I'm sure that you have some interesting resources that perhaps you can recommend to our listeners as well.
I listen to podcasts like yours.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, it is true that personally I listen to like 4 or 5 different podcasts to stay updated. Actually, I used to listen more, but now I'm so busy. It's different from other just industries where podcast or social form of learning is, I find it more important in Web3 and blockchain. I guess there's Twitter, there are different publications, but yeah, there's no secret or like structured course you can learn about this industry. Things just happening so fast, evolve so fast.
Yeah, that is good advice, and that is a good way to point people in the right direction. I think podcasts are obviously right now they're all the rage because it's easy to sort of consume this information while you're on the go. So definitely perhaps the right way for users who are looking to get more information and deep dive into Web3 to perhaps listen to some relevant Web3 podcasts, maybe this particular podcast or even the A16Z podcast. I think they tend to give out a lot of relevant information.
Right. And there's a few like Bantless and a couple others.
Absolutely. I think all of them are like doing a wonderful job. So, Jerry, I would love to understand again from your perspective, perhaps I would love to get your perspective on certain, coming back to, the macro ecosystem as a whole and the trends in the space. I have seen NFTs kind of, evolve since the very beginning, initially when it was all became a craze with CryptoKitties and whatnot. Again, we are seeing something similar happen when we talk about AI and Web3. Do you have perhaps a opinion here? Has your opinion on any particular niche, not just these two, has it evolved over time? Like kind of seeing how it has grown or developed? Because I used to hold a very archaic sort of a opinion about NFTs. I did not understand it, and
Yeah.
over the years, I think my opinion has drastically changed. I think the technology itself has found so many use cases, and they are not just digital collectibles anymore. And I stand corrected.
Right.
So I would love to know,
Yeah.
as an entrepreneur, as a builder, have you ever felt humbled, in terms of your own opinion and seeing the kind of growth that any niche has seen?
Yeah, so often, so many times.
Yeah,
Like I never get the meme coins.
right.
Um, yeah. And you mentioned NFT. That's another um like a couple years ago it was really hot. Now it kind of died down. But I
Hmm.
think eventually for any technology or service to be widely adopted, it needs to provide more value than
Right,
just the NFT just showed being a PFP. That's just the the usefulness, the adoption is key, right? How can you take that digital piece and apply that to other aspects of your life? It could be a ticket to a show, it could be, there, yeah, just let the use case needs to be enriched. Um,
right.
Otherwise, it just be just people just speculate on it, then it will not last, right? Unfortunately, that has been the phenomenon in our industry again and again, right?
Yeah,
Um, yeah, every couple of months there's something new. It could be just a fad. They will go away eventually. But I'm hopeful for the future. I think a lot of it is just people experimenting, right?
hmm.
I think yeah, I'm still bullish on NFT, but we just need to um, just bring real use case around NFT, not just have a digital piece being there. That's not enough, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think
Hmm.
real use cases are what are going to make technology sticky in nature.
Hmm.
And that is still, I think a lot of these NFT projects are still looking for perhaps a good product market fit. And I'm sure that they'll find it as long as, the use case is sticky enough for the end user.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
So, we are really, kind of at the end of the time that, we've allotted for the recording. But I would like to ask you two more questions before we wrap this up. I
Sure.
would love to, know from you and get your um, perhaps just advice and suggestions that you might have for entrepreneurs and builders who are just stepping and getting their toes wet in the Web3 ecosystem.
Uh, I'm an entrepreneur myself. I'm building. I'm not sure if I'm in the best position to give advice. But I'll tell you what has worked for me and my learning.
Hmm.
um, I think is you don't. y- there's no best timing to start something new. If you
Right.
want to do something, you really believe it,
Yeah.
you should just take action and just get started. Don't wait for the best of timing. Because in Artela's case, Artela was founded just about a year and a half ago. I remember it was the day that the price of Bitcoin actually went down to 15,000.
Wow.
It wasn't that long ago, but that was
Yeah.
actually a multi-year. That was a multi-year low.
Yeah.
But we did not really care. We wanted, we believed we can bring something valuable to this industry and start building something for long term. So we got to choose that time. It would be bad timing, but it actually was pretty hard for us to raise capital at the time. But we did it. Now looking back, it wasn't the worst time. If you want to do something, just get started, act on it. Yeah, that would be my advice.
That's very sound advice. I think, a lot of us there's analysis paralysis, right? So, you start thinking too much and you feel
Yeah.
like, yeah, you could feel like there's going to be an imaginary hypothetical time perhaps in the future where, conditions would be perhaps more conducive for the idea that you have or the vision that you're trying to build upon. And
Hmm.
I totally agree with you. I think I've been an entrepreneur for more than 13, 14 years now. And I think it's complete BS, right? It never happens.
Mhm.
You just have to do
Yeah.
it, because you can't sit down and start, really timing. I think you shouldn't time two things. You shouldn't try to time the market. And if you are
Mhm.
an entrepreneur, you shouldn't try to time the kind of, external variables that will be at play before you really put your product out there.
Yep. Yep. Just act. Just do
Yeah,
it.
just act, just do it. I think that is
Yeah.
supremely good
Mhm.
advice. Now on to my last question, and this is something I ask everybody who comes on the show, because you are again somebody who's made a leap from Web 2 to Web 3, and in a spectacular way so far, and more power to you, and kudos to you for building on your vision. But if you had to perhaps again give some advice to people who are perhaps right now in Web 2 and they are intrigued by Web3, what would
Mhm.
be your advice to them to really, you know, get into Web3, start perhaps not just building, but perhaps utilizing Web3 and start living on blockchain?
Mhm. Yeah, I see a lot of people like that. They are in Web2, they work for some big tech company, but they are intrigued by what's happening in blockchain, in crypto. There's this mystique around this industry, right? To a lot of outsiders. But I would say maybe first thing, become a user. Try to download MetaMask, get some coins, maybe get from some centralized exchange, then get use some of the applications. From user standpoint, you will learn so much than just reading, or just doing some research, right? That's one thing. Just become a user. Another thing is I find the uniqueness of Web3 is the community learning, right? We talk about listening to podcasts, getting on Twitter. Crypto Twitter is very active, right? And how do you find the community that you can learn and improve and maybe meet people? That's also important, right? You find
Right.
people, maybe they can become your business partner eventually. Yeah, I would say that. Yeah.
I think though that is like very sound advice, and that is what I usually tell people, that if you want to build in Web3, or if you want to get into Web3, become a user, get your hands dirty. There is no other way. Like there is
Mm-hmm.
only so much or so far theory will take you, and all the information that you're gleaning off of resources will take you. You really need to do it to
Mm-hmm.
be able to understand how the technology works, and
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't have to be like a deep dive into how the technology works. It's just that you get to perhaps experience it firsthand, and that
Yep.
itself would be like going down a rabbit hole, and you would get more curious, and you would look up things,
Mm-hmm.
and you would understand more, and then I feel that
Mm-hmm.
once people do go down this rabbit hole, there's no coming back.
Yeah, that's been my experience as well. Yeah.
So thank you so much, Jerry, once again for taking the time to speak to us about Artela and what you guys are building. It sounds wonderful, and I think a lot of our listeners would be very intrigued by the modular functionality, and they would love to perhaps sign up on your public testnet, which is live right now, and I would encourage them to do that. And yeah, just before we wrap this up, any parting thoughts?
Yeah, Artela Network, come to our website. Also, we have Artela Network Twitter. We have a lot of new documents, new information coming out every day. I hope some of your audience can become part of our community as well. And I really enjoyed the conversation with you, Tiruja.
Thank you so much, Jerry. I think you'll get quite a few listeners who will be intrigued and would love to join your community.
Thanks.